Here we go, folks. Today's guest is a former QMJHL player and coach, also suited up for Dalhousie of the CIS. He's recently returned back to the Rock after 4 years coaching in Rwanda of the QMJHL. He's also a former ball hockey champ and teammate of mine, and also currently is back home on the Rock, and amongst other things is helping athletes with mental health, drawing from his own education and personal experiences. He is a great guy, a courageous coach, a terrific teammate, a dynamite D-man, a fine forward, a proud player. His local rep grew, so he landed in the queue. His head felt wonky after multiple conkies. When he finished his career, things looked more clear. He'd go to school like me and get a degree. He'd write and read, and now he could lead. He's thin, not stocky, and then coached junior hockey. He still plans to roam, but for now is back home. Folks, hockey's commissioner is named Gary Bettman. And please welcome back my pal, Brad Yetman. Brad, how you doing?
TR, good to see you as always, buddy.
Yes,
that's a hell of an intro. That's a hell of an intro.
Sorry, I got tongue-tied there at the beginning. It's hard to read my own writing. And when I have someone back for the second time, I often just wing it. I don't go into those big intros, but I figured, you deserved one. And I wanted to brush up on my intros. It's been a while. It's been a whirlwind.
I appreciate it.
Lately, for me, for you, you're relaxing a little bit. I would say not relaxing because you're a very busy guy, but you've moved home. You coached the last 4 years, 2 assistant, 2 head in Rwanda. Tell us about that experience and what brought you to where we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible experience. Well, as you know, the hockey world is not the easiest world at times to live in and just be in. It definitely takes a lot mentally, big toll. And last year, we had a great team. It was my kind of contract year, I guess. We had a great team, young team. We did a lot of great things on the ice, a lot of good results and things like that. But unfortunately, just wasn't renewed just because, at the end of the day, hockey is that way sometimes. But
hockey's that way, Brad. It's insane. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And just the lack of stability in it. And as much as I love the sport and I truly, honestly, passionately love coaching, that moving back home over the summer kind of opened my eyes to certain things, priorities, and figured I'd take the time to be able to let myself feel the experience for the first time and go through it, work through it, get some support for it, and being able to do something a little more stable around family here to see how that life is, and just to be able to kind of go in that direction and being able to, like you said, use my experiences in mental health to help athletes, doing presentations on mental health and all around the province and with not just in sports, but with general public and schools as well. So getting pretty busy as well as with counseling side of things. So helping people is obviously a big thing I love to be able to do. So being able to do it a little bit more in a stable way now and being able to do it with family all around and being back home is a huge plus as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, earlier, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it fascinates me. Coaching doesn't matter. You could be an ultra successful coach, and the odds are you're not going to last in any league, at least in hockey. I can't speak for every sport, but we're getting there. For 5 years, man. So you went up there, 2 years assistant, 2 years head. You had a great experience. I don't think you wouldn't have been around if people didn't like you and you weren't successful to some degree. It's not all about wins and losses, but the business side is, unfortunately, and a lot of the time the coach is the fall guy. So for me, that's one reason I wouldn't get into it. I just don't want to be moving that frequently. And for you, you might have a family at some point. I think you're 31, 32 now.
32, yeah.
I would have found that hard. I had Penny Lane around your age. And I just kept thinking to myself, because I did have opportunities, not immediately in the queue like you, but, to go back to the WHL or to Junior A or whatever it was. And I just never wanted to be moving. And I'm not saying that I had to be in St. John's, although I'm in Mount Pearl now. I'm loving that I'm here. But I just didn't, that was a real drawback to me moving all over. So you're fine with that if you get back into that role. You're cool with that, and the travel, because Brad, the travel not only from team to team if you lose a job or you move on or get promoted. It's also during the season. So you're prepared and you're willing to be busing, plane, whatever, and to possibly know that, every 2, 3, 5, 6, if you're lucky years, you'll be moving.
Well, and that's the really hard part. I was really naive with it, thinking, oh, this is going to be the team I'm going to be with for years until I get my pro opportunity, just being that person that's not gone through it. And I wouldn't mind, but as a player, I was traded twice in the league. So I understood, but with the coaching side of things, I knew I was in a place that had really good track record for longevity with coaches. Unfortunately, just last year, a new GM came in. We barely communicated since Christmas of last year, and he decided he wanted to bring his guy in, which it happens. But that part definitely opened my eyes, and especially seeing my two brothers set up home here in Newfoundland. One, Mark, my oldest, has 2 daughters, and Nathan, the youngest, he's going to get there eventually. And thinking, really realizing how much of a priority it was for me. So just to be able to take the time right now to be able to try to focus a little more in that direction and just kind of see where that goes.
Now, that's interesting, and we're going to get a little bit more into what you're up to later. I just got some, I guess, lighter, fair questions we can get into, and because I'm really interested, and your story is a lot, like, I could have you on a few avenues here, and we probably will at some point. A lot of people don't realize how long we've known each other. We've been teammates. Yeah. We've lost national championships in the final. Like, I've often said to people, when you get, even though it's ball hockey, but, people that don't play don't realize how much we take it serious. Those who have played or those that we're talking to that listen to it from the national, they get it. So, Brad, we've lost a few times in the final in the Nationals, okay? Now, as a player, I've never been a coach, but I feel that that's one experience that I can't, like, if I look back at teams that I've won on, they always say, you remember everybody on the championship teams and everything? And yes, but there's something about a big loss in like a time like that that's also, I mean, it's not necessarily negative. It bonds you together. Think about the time. Think about Saskatchewan. Right?
Yeah.
Can you remember that? We got to
our
the
team
final.
Was terrible. Our team was.
Remember we all, me, you. I remember. God, even guys like Andrew Piercy, Patty O'Keefe, I think, was on that. Jeremy, but we I can go down the list, but we had a bunch of us that just had to go every second time, and sometimes 2 out of 3. Remember, we were going down. We were tying our laces, calling timeouts, like knocking the net off. Just, it was crazy. And we went through. We blew our load in the semifinals. I remember being in a heap on the floor, and I looked all around at you guys, and you could see the steam coming up, like just off the bodies, right? And we made the final. What was the score? We got pumped.
In the final, like 8-9-1 against Montreal. But our final was that semi against Manitoba, winning what, like 5-0, something like that.
Yeah.
And like the boys, I'm pretty sure you could make like a Disney movie with how many block shots we had in that semifinal game. Like, and guys were just like Dalmatians in the room after, just spots all over.
See, that's when I try to tell people, like, maybe if it's a kid that's on the fence and he or she wants to play soccer or whatever, and they're not all going to make like AAA or anything, but I'm like, those moments are great too. You got to understand that going to battle with your buddies, no matter what, you get memories, I often like to explain that, because sports isn't just about the winning. Now, when you're on the in RAN, there must be instances like that. You must be out there and you must see a kid say, I don't know, get better at crossovers or start using instincts. For me, watching players in my little limited coaching, but I like watching players gain confidence. Sometimes it's not that they're getting so much better, it's that they're confident and they start using the toolbox, right? I mean, did you ever notice that? Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was the part I loved the most about coaching, was the actual teaching part. It was never about the wins, losses, or whatever. And, obviously the job was based on wins, losses for the most part, but it is truly those moments that you get that kid that it snaps in for him, or he does really well, or he comes and asks questions. He builds that relationship, it builds that communication. Then you're really helping that player both on and off the ice. And that's the moments in which you're like, all right, like this is worth it. This is worth the 7 hours of video you got to do in a couple of days or whatever. Right. So it's a very fulfilling job, very stressful and demanding job, especially in junior when you have to, look at billets, you have to look at school, you have to look at, all their off ice activities. It is very demanding, but it is very rewarding at the same time.
But you're always like, that's the thing for me. I don't consider myself a selfish person. I really don't. I try to be as giving as I can. I try to answer all my messages. I try to be generous with time and money, even when I didn't have a lot of money. Time, maybe show up, sign some hockey cards. But I'm telling you this, I need to shut it down. I'm not even going to say, like, though that's me for part of the day, for like at least half of the day, I got to turn that off. When you're coaching, though, you'd constantly be working. It'd be hard for me to separate myself. Like you said, billets and this and that, and you can't really turn your phone off. You've got to have it on, right? Like I can throw it in the corner for 6 hours and fuck everybody. I need some time here. But you can't really do that. So I guess what's it like now? Not so much tell me about that, because I assume I know what that's like, having to be responsible all the time. What's it like now where, again, you're real busy? We're going to get into why a little bit later. But having so much time, and like we skated yesterday at a shinny skate at noon. You couldn't do that for years. How do you feel now?
Oh, honestly, it is very, very demanding for sure. Like I had a good kind of setup that as soon as the work day was over, would make my calls, whatever I needed to do, and then I would truly try to put my phone to the side as much as possible.
Oh, nice.
And of course, if something happened, then obviously would have to attend to it right away. But like in the last 3-4 weeks, I've played more pickup games with hockey than like the last 10 years combined. Like
without having to think about like if you're a coach, just subconsciously little things like systems every day, it goes through your mind. It has to at some point. It might be something. It might be a power play breakout. It might be neutral zone. Trap.
Constantly
anything.
That, and then you're even thinking to yourself, then, all right, well, I'm home. It's 7:30, 8 o'clock Eastern. Like now I got to sit down and try to watch, the Leafs play or something like that to see if you can pick up on other things. And then it's just like, but the way me and you were throwing that puck around, I was kind of hoping the Growlers were up and they sign us and get us down there.
I tell you, this was a lot of wily vet kind of hockey IQ cues playing yesterday. For those who don't know, we skate at Shinny, and for me, I skate 4 or 5 times a week. It's always at noon. People think I play in these beer leagues at night. No, it's noon. It's the old ex-senior players. A good skate. Yesterday, it usually ends up being a mix of older guys that have played versus younger guys that are maybe in the local senior league or junior league here. But I think last night was a pretty, or yesterday afternoon was a pretty lopsided victory.
That's
for us.
One way to put it, for sure.
Oh, yeah. You had some shelf, too. It's been a while since I even made you a pass. I'm thinking like the 2018 or 19 Ball Hockey Nationals.
Yeah.
Vancouver, maybe. What's your favorite? By the way, the NHL All-Star Game's coming up. I'm taking senior you. What's your favorite All-Star memory? Like, I mean, of the NHL All-Star Game watching on TV or whatever. Or maybe you went to one.
Well, definitely one that it's not the NHL, but when the AHL All-Star Game was here. Yeah. I don't know if you remember. And then it was like Mark Roboth and Colin Greening, like those kind of college guys were down playing as well. And I remember just having that AHL game here, especially when the Maple Leafs were like the king shit here in the city. And but NHL All-Star Game, I always think back on those like the West versus East games.
Yeah.
And how intense they were. And it wasn't like,
I know it's really gone the way it's gone. Like, just, I know I keep saying to myself, like, I'm taking my dad up. I think it'll be a fun weekend. I think the vibe is great.
I think you're gonna find some fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So that part. Well, people ask me about the game. Like, I've accepted long ago it's not going to be the same. So I'm going up there. I don't even have tickets for the game, or I wouldn't mind seeing the skills competition. Maybe there'd be a bit of fun there. But I'm not even upset anymore. I'm just I've accepted it. It's a novelty. Kids are like, I guess. I don't want to sound like an old man yelling at the clouds. I did prefer watching when it was a real game. I mean, way back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a game. And I remember like Gretzky getting 4 one year and then Lemieux getting 4 one year. But if you watch those games, like there was a little, like people were bumping, like
Oh yeah.
they were trying to some degree. Now it's just completely gone the other way. So I assume kids like it, and it might be a fun vibe to be around. What do they do in the queue? Like, well, how's that game?
Well, there's none. Well, they used to have with the Russian team.
Yeah, I remember
Like,
that.
the
Yeah.
Russian junior team used to come play 2 games against the Q All-Stars,
Yeah.
2 games against OW. But obviously with the Russians being banned, that's out now. But like even to your point, TR, just with the All-Star game and skills comp and stuff, like I'm excited to see how the skills competition will be this year. Only a select guys, you have your cumulative scores and then see who gets $1 million bucks at the end of it. But even like what baseball does, like I love watching the baseball All-Star game. Like it means something. Like the winner of it, there's actual like consequences for losing the game.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I just find it. First of all, I don't want to get my instinct. Okay, I'm not bullshitting here, and I hate fucking. There's a lot of things I say on here that sound like I'm like pumping my own tires, but these are facts. And if you're fucking listening to this, then you know me. I guess by this point we're 100 or 300 episodes in or some shit. But like when I went to it was the junior All-Star game, and the way they used to do it was like in my year when I made the WHL All-Star team, we played the OHL. So Kitchener, they had a team full of OHL guys, and then the Q and the West would combine 10 from each team. So I mean, it's lucky I had good stats that year. Like, you know, it was my draft year, and they couldn't really deny me because of the stats, but it was a lockout year. So like Ryan Smith was in the league, like Iggy didn't make the team, you know, like, but at that particular point, what are you going to go by here? Statistics. So I got into the game. And in that game, me and Brian Berard, that was before the Prospects game. The Prospects game, which became a thing, came in the next year. And I believe largely due to the fact that in this All-Star game, it was me, Berard, Redden, Lankow. We all did really well, but we just happened to make the team. Like if, you know, a 20-year-old on my team had better stats, they would have been there. And I think people said, you know what, we got to showcase the young guys a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
I was never told that. But I remember that game, like me and Berard hit me in the corner, and I got up and we went at it, and he knew and I knew. And as soon as we went off, we spoke about it. And he's like, I wasn't coming to the All-Star game and mailing it in. People are evaluating us. And I go, yeah, like, and I think if I was there now, even though it'd be lots of money made and everything, just my mindset, if the NHLPA got, you know, whoever that rep is now, was Bob Goodenow when I was that age, or even the commissioner, or if someone came in and said, guys, can you give it an effort? Can you please give, like, that's all it would take. You don't have to go out but you know, they're getting on, like people are, Senior and I went to it in Vegas, like we were there with Chicklets, and the skills comp was pretty good, but the game was like, it was almost like they were trying to go the other way. Like they were really trying to not try. You know what I mean? And that looks almost embarrassing. And you gotta, in my mind, like, you know, people are here for the first time and they want to see hockey, show them something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that was a long-winded, but I just don't think it would take much.
No, exactly. Right? It kind of makes you think of Slapshot 2. You know, they're going out, they're trying to do the whole Harlem Globetrotters thing, and then next thing they start beating the shit out of each other, and then everyone's like, all right, yeah, like here's some real hockey. Like let's get it going here. Like
do you think at any point people are going to start wearing full cages in the NHL?
No.
I think it's going to happen. I do think it's going to happen. Well,
I don't know.
Visors were unheard of, right? And then visors came in. Now, by the way, I'm not arguing one way or the other. I mean, obviously I'd rather see no cages, but at this point, nothing surprises me. I don't care. Someone is going to get a slap shot in the jaw at some point.
Oh, for sure.
I just, you know, like I never saw neck guards coming in. Not that I care. I'm impartial, but now, you know, a lot of okay. But at some point, it's same thing. It's going to be, and it might seem now, but now there's only 5 guys in the league, is it, with no visor on. In the 80s, there was only 5 with one on. If you go back a decade before that, people would have thought it absurd if you said everybody was going to wear a helmet. At each point, you're going, okay, obviously, like look back now, we go, helmet, of course, right? People look back and go, Jesus Christ, they played with no visor, right? But I still play with no visor. It's why I look, and I'm not arguing the safety of it, but I just think someone's going to come in a few years and we have a nick here and wear their cage. and it's going to be okay. Then you might have 2 on another team, and then someone might break their jaw with a slap shot, and then the next day someone gets knocked out with a punch. Now, this could be the year 2070, but I just think I think people are going to wear cages. I do.
Well, you see it obviously in college hockey that it's mandatory, but I mean they'll still have like the fish bowls, obviously for sight. But I think the biggest thing is that like, is it going to be anytime soon? Probably not. But just wearing the cage, wearing the visor is so different for your sight lines.
Well, that's the only reason, Brad, that I get the safety, even with the visor. I get the safety, but when I got up, I remember the first time I could do it was at Montreal camp, right? And when I was 18, and all of a sudden I took it off, and I'm like, wow, I can see the ice way better.
Oh, way better.
I totally understand the risk, and if people don't want to wear a visor, I get it. I'm just saying, wow. I was like, fuck, like I'm going to be evaluated on my passing. I'm out here with some Hall of Famers, Mark Recchi, Pierre Turgeon, guys like this, right? Of course, I'd rather see the ice better, but people kept their elbows, even though it was crazy 80 or crazy 90s. But, again, now that everybody has it on, it's a little easier to get your elbow up, right?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, you see, even the last couple of days, there's been some nasty elbows. Like Trouba a little bit off the face-off there against Vegas, I think they were playing. And even Gallagher against the Islanders the other night getting 5 games.
Oh, Jesus Christ. My God.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that was dangerous. You're never going to, again, without taking sides, it's going to be hard to ever take that out. That's why I say it's going to be hard to take fighting. Like that happens. You could give me a 5-game suspension, but someone is going to jump in at some point. It's just hockey's physical. That's the way it is.
It is, and it's fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Fathers know that before you put your kid in.
Yeah.
And a lot of it looks really dirty, but it's a split. Even look at what Gallagher did, but it's a split second. Like he was going through 2 seconds before, he had no idea. We're talking about a fraction of 1 second. He waits, boom, right? Yeah. Like it's so, and like, I hate to say I relate. I don't recall ever making a play like that, but I do recall like sometimes like someone's hooking and to turn around, fuck you, and like boom, bang, and the stick over the head. Jesus, what am I doing? Right? Like it's a fraction of a second, and it's just so obvious in hockey because you got a weapon in your hand and you're going so fast and you can hit.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Like it must happen in volleyball. What are you going to do? Say fuck off, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what happens in every sport? People get pissed off. You see the tennis guys all the time, and girls, like, snap the fucking racket, throw it away, but you're not really hurting anybody, you know?
Well, it's funny watching basketball. You get a highlight, and then it's on, like, TSN or Sportsnet. It's like, and we have a big brouhaha in basketball. It's like one guy barely pushes the guy, he flops to the other side of the court, and then it's like, oh, wow, what a fight. They all got technicals.
I love it. Guys coming back in hockey, like, stitching up their eye on the bench.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it's a product of the way the game is, right? We're just
100%.
I often, I go down, I have this conversation all the time with basketball players and football players. I'm like, dude, I get it. You guys got lots of tough, but the part of our culture, like we grow up, we're in junior, we want to come back. Like people are in there going, please put me back out. After you get like a slash in the face or something and got to get it stitched up. It's just part of the culture. I'm really happy, not only for Maggie Connors, who plays with Toronto in the PWHL. It seems like it's going pretty well. I think I'd rather see the team names, though. Would you? Where are you on that? Would you like to see the teams?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? I would be the first person to say that I was a little skeptical, optimistic that the league would work out.
Yeah.
And after watching the hockey, like it is some great hockey.
It's all. I've said it's all relative. Like if they're out there and they're the best in the world, and they are for the most part. I'm kind of waiting for there are good players overseas. It's going to get really interesting when we start having like a European draft or something. But I think I was subconsciously skeptical. I was rooting for them so much because they've been through a lot over the years, and I am on the side. I am that if you got to have fans in the stands. We can't just give people, not we, but you can't just rely on other organizations or the NHL. Yes, but people are going, is each team going to have an NHL team? I don't know, man. It's not up to the NHL. I get that they help a little bit, but now I see something that can definitely be marketed. that I'm definitely going to go to
100%.
games if I'm up there. And now, if you can sustain that, more power in the world. I love that it's happening. I just thought it a curious choice not to have team names.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to work towards it. It's definitely working out a lot of kinks this year, and I'm sure behind the scenes they had to do a lot of finagling to get the financial and figuring out all the logistics and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, I've watched a good few games, even at one point, even more than NHL, and the fact that they are allowing a lot more of the body contact, a lot more
more, man.
And it was like, wow.
You know what it's like, Brad? It's like when we play ball hockey and people expect there to be no, and we know in our head, like when someone asks me, is there hitting? I go, yeah, well, actually there's not. It's just we've hit an understanding as a player and as officials. Yeah. And I think they're getting to that immediately with this game. I fucking love it. They're rubbing each other out and it's let go.
Absolutely. And it's fun. It's fun to be able to watch, to be honest. And especially, like you said about Maggie being able to play, getting player to game, very first game of the year. And then opening up, because I know female hockey here in Newfoundland is really growing a lot. And obviously over the last few years, starting off like pretty good with Sarah Davis, and then you got Maggie, and then you got Abby Newhook, and you got so many others that are really coming through. And it's like, wow, this is great. And now being able to have them be able to aspire to that league. And even like the what's her name? Is it Heiss, who went first overall to Minnesota? Yeah. Watching her like
skate
and everything, I'm like, oh my God. Like,
it's only evolving in a great direction, man. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Side note, if you're local, most all Penny Lane's soccer team plays hockey except for her. I'll get into that. She didn't love it when she was younger. I didn't want to force it on her. And I could hear people already, oh, she's not that good for Terry Ryan's daughter. And I wanted no part of that poison, none of it. When Tyson was coming up, I often talk about that, BJ's son that I helped raise after he passed away. It was the same because BJ played in the NHL and his father figure, stepfather also. So it was constant. He played on all the fucking AAA teams and everything. And it seemed like a bit stressful when I watched him, and I was like, no kid needs this in their life for something that they're supposed to be having fun. So that's why. But anyway, looking back, I probably like Penny Lane. It's water off a duck's back. I get it, the kind of person she is now. But she said last year, yeah, can we go and learn? I'm like, we can, but you're 12. Man, that ship kind of sailed, like being an all-star. You can't just jump on. I'm not trying to discourage people from trying it. And of course, I did take her and show her to learn her. Teach her to skate. Of course I did. But, she gets it. I'm probably not going to jump onto the Bantam AAA team here, right? It's just harder to do. But anyway, a lot of them play. Rudy Norman's daughter, Bella. Yeah. Rudy's a wicked soccer player, like one of the best. I think he was athlete of the decade in Newfoundland, like I think from 2010, one of the best soccer players, athletes ever to come from the island. But his two kids play hockey, and they're really good. And his daughter Bella is like lights out. She's tiny, and she plays on like the year older, like the boys team. Yeah. And she plays girls as well, but she's good enough to like at sometimes dominate anybody, boy, girl, fucking dog, giraffe, adult, fucking whatever. She's out there and she dangles. Yeah. It's really so to elaborate on what I'm saying is that the women's game here, for me, it used to be, I knew every woman, every female in town that even played, right? Like, and it'd be a story. Oh, did you hear this? There's a girl in the in the Mount Blue organization, or Wanda Clark back in the day, or Leslie Martin, or whoever. And now it's like I go to watch these kids. We have like I went to watch the tryouts for Team Newfoundland. Holy fuck, Brad. Well, you see it more than I do because you're in that. I just go. I hear there's a good kid. I want to go. I like going locally and watching, right? There's not one division around here that I don't see a game all year. I like to keep my finger on the pulse, and there's so many good players, and now they can open up to scholarships and everything else. I mean, you must see it coaching. Do you? The numbers must be going through the roof.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's a lot of fun to be able to see that. And we're at such an important time in our province's hockey history, I guess you could say, because we have some great young NHLers. We have Maggie in the inaugural league for the women's side. Abby Newhook was involved within Hockey Canada, and we have so many people growing up there that we need to take advantage of that momentum now and not be in the news for eliminating handshakes and then putting them back in place a few months later.
Now, listen,
but
Brad,
like being able to really grow that game, and it helps being able to have the growlers here that kids go down and watch it and they're like, wow, like I would love to be able to play that one day, and the women with the PWHLs, and
they're involved. Look, this is, I really think this. I could be wrong. I don't want to underestimate anybody in this province in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, because there's always good coaches like Howie Meeker, Joe Byrne, right? My dad, if he didn't have Joe Byrne, the stadium's named after him. 5 of them wouldn't have gone pro off the one fucking Bantam team from Grand Falls.
Yeah.
But what's happening, I see now, more than ever, is that, well, the 90s was a bit of an explosion for people leaving. And all of a sudden we have like Slaney, me, Clary, we all go in the first round.
Yeah.
Drew went in the second, and then Chloe and Ryder and Pards, and I don't leave anybody out. Teddy Purcell and
Mark Tobin, Green,
Tobin, Ryder, all these players come through, right? But what's happening now is players like you are one of them. Even like I don't know, Andrew Piercy is a good hockey player, right? His dad was, but he left. His dad was more local, great player, but he brought some stuff back, right to like Andrew McKim, who played in the NHL, Andy Sullivan, doesn't like all these players. Yourself, Connor Donaghy. I mean, I don't know. Those are the older. Marcus Power.
Yep.
Like, you guys are all coming back and coaching. I'm not taking anything away from coaches that I had. Derm Connolly was at the draft. Wow, I still talk to him. I messaged him the other day. Derm, still living here in Mount Pearl. But so I'm not knocking any of that. But I learned when I left to go away, I really learned a lot, because these are coaches that have been to pro, that have been to everything. I went to junior A the first year. A lot of people might laugh up in Quesnel and everything. Yeah, I was being coached by Ron Coleman, and he was very versatile. I mean, he got called up to the WHL. Now all you guys are coaching back here. I think that's the biggest reason. Maybe I'm wrong, but when you're watching the kids, and there's way more ice time, right? I didn't have these extra programs. Now I wouldn't be at it all year long, but don't, like I say to people, they're like, oh, they should put their skates away. And I get that, and I would do that in the winter. But what I'm saying is that I also didn't have like 10 hours available to me. I would have liked to be in those programs, 4-on-4,
oh man,
things like that. So is that what you see? Like, what do you think is the biggest reason?
Well, absolutely. I mean, just the availability of those type of resources, and like you said, having good hockey people. Like I'm up helping with Andrew McKim with Extreme now 5 hours a week, just being able to stay involved.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. There's at least 20 kids each session, and they're getting out and they don't stop. Like it's 45 minutes, 46 minutes of just nonstop. They do station work, in which they're doing 6 minutes a station, and they do not stop. And they're off after, and they're exhausted. But I do agree that the perception now is that it's a 12-month sport, but it can't be. Like you just can't. Like even major, junior, like, or pro, those guys, when they finish up, they have 5-6 weeks, that depending, of course.
Thank you for saying that. I try to say it to people and parents, and they don't get it. I'm like,
no.
I know you see Sidney Crosby jumping over hoops and all that. I get it. And all this off ice is very important. But I'm telling you right now, man, there's a break. And talk to all those players. Any player that I know from here or anywhere really took a significant amount of time off.
Yes, absolutely. Physical break from it, just to let the body kind of decompress. And it's not just like with any injuries, but just with the stress of everything. It's like you got to let your body just get rid of that naturally. And then even mentally too, like you got to get yourself out of the environment to be able to sit back, be able to kind of debrief things, figure out how you're going to work on things, and be able to make the plan. But then you appreciate it that much more when you come back into it. Like I remember going through with major, junior back in, however, 15 years ago, whatever it was. Like, I mean, it was always that way. Even younger, just playing soccer all summer, like there would be no 12-hour or 12 month a year for hockey. But it was like you go, you work out, and then remember those skates we used to have over at the old Smallwood? Like You could have sold tickets for like the quality of players that were in playing. Like, it was insane.
It was incredible. But here's the thing that people, I honestly, I was like, okay, at baseball, I was an all-star, but like, I might not be in the starting lineup. Like an all-star, I mean, good enough to be playing in the local and like represent Mount Pearl when we went to tournaments. You know, I'd sneak my way one year onto the provincial team. I think there was like a few injuries. So I was okay. And people used to often go like, why do you come back and like bother with trying to hit a curveball and everything? And I'd be like, well, but you don't realize, like, because there is no stress on me to be the best player. And I can strike out and come back and go, maybe next time. And I don't have to work because I'm like, I'm going to be an athlete anyway. I'm lost if I'm not doing something. And it's just nice to get away from the hockey or ball hockey or whatever and try to hit a curveball, right? And try to catch a pop fly. And if I'm not successful, it's not the end of the world. I'm with the boys, and there's a few fans here locally, but it's not reporters judging me. And there was something that I appreciated about that.
In the bleachers, put me in coach and just a pair of cowboy boots out in left field.
Yeah. It was a nice break from things, and it was nice to be on a team, to look up to another athlete. Like, I don't know, growing up, it would be Craig Hodge, or in recent years, Peter Fifield or Mike Dyke or Chris Sparks, who come out. Yeah. It's nice to be on a team knowing that they're better. Okay, you know what? Like, Dykester, is your wrist okay? You can hit for me in the 8th and 9th, or hopefully you can pinch hit, or knowing that there were better players that I didn't have to be bothered with that, right? There was something refreshing about it, and it's hard to put my finger on it. But the other thing, and if there's parents listening, because because I often, because of that theory that I have, and at least that motto, personal motto, take some time in the summer, preferably another sport, but at least take some time off. But they think that during the season, I'm not about those extra programs. But I'm like, in this day and age, like Penny Lane is very, very grounded individual. She's smart. She's, good student, everything. I have no reason to complain about that. But if I naturally let her, like, she would be on the phone for 6 or 7 hours in the day, right? She wouldn't even realize it. Before school, then, at lunch, and then come home and go on. And then, okay, we got to read, we got to do it. But if I didn't break up the day for her, even a pretty grounded individual could go that route. So I don't mind. She's in a lot of extra soccer programs and that. I'm like, I'm not going to overwork you here, but, you just sat in a school desk. I think you could tend to do something every night, whether it's, take a few kicks, whatever it would be. And I don't push her myself, but I put her in those programs, and all the girls are in there, and it helps break it up. You know what I mean? I wouldn't overwork them, but and I think you should be able to judge that for yourselves. But I think programs during the year or during the season, whatever season, are important now, because other people are getting ahead, first of all. And I think it's a good way to spend time, actively. There's less games of organized street hockey anymore, Brad, but you might get 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 up with McKim, and it's the same sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's so tough too, because it's like right away, right from when a kid will start playing hockey at, say, 5-6 years old. Like, I even saw it over the summer that a kid would be on the ice for a practice at 8:30 in the morning, back on the ice for a game at 11:30 in one program, and then in the afternoon do a practice and a game in another program. Yeah, this kid's like 6-7 years old.
That's getting insane. That's what I mean. That's insane.
This is kind of like, okay, hold a second here. Let's get some heads checked. Like, let's kind of take a deep breath here, and because the kid didn't go into an extra hockey program when they were 6 or 7 is not going to change the world here. But I think a lot of people miss out on the fact that other experiences are so valuable. Being able to learn, the baseball, the soccers, the basketballs, the volleyballs, just being able to experience, and such a big thing, so that when the kid, doesn't get, once you get 15, 16, they're like, well, the only thing I've ever done in my life is play hockey.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
No, that's interesting. And for those, I guess I'm often vague on here. For those that don't know, so for Penny Lane, say that's my daughter. I mean, I try to, she's 13. She's on the provincial soccer team, right? So they'll go and they'll practice at the Technoplex all all winter. It's great. We didn't have that. I mean, I played soccer. I wish we could have that opportunity. She practices with her Mount Pearl team on Saturday nights down there. Then she'll have that'll be twice a week, and then she has one with the provincial team. So then now there's a thing called high performance. So for 2 nights a week, she goes down for an hour, and they'll do everything from they'll split it up and play like games 4-on-4 to like work on your touches and stuff. That I don't find too much. A couple nights a week, but I wouldn't be getting into the extra programs and every single day 2 and 3 times, especially not 6 or 7. I know what you mean, man. I go to some hockey schools and parent will be there with like the shot clock. Like kids like 7 or 8 years old can barely put on his skates,
Oh man, that's the thing. It's like, it's so funny because you're up on the ice, you're teaching, and a thing that I love that programs do is like put the names on the helmets. So of course it makes it a lot more personalized. But then you're going to some kids on their helmets, and it's like you're trying to find their name because their helmet looks like a friggin' passport with all the different programs and stickers. That day. they got about 45 different program stickers on the helmets, and it's like, wow, this is a well-traveled 7-year-old.
We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. With DraftKings, you can bet on any game you want. Whether you want to bet the puck line or the over-under, DraftKings has something for everybody. And if you want, you can throw down on your favorite player as an anytime goal scorer. Or if you're looking for a long-term bet, maybe you want to predict the Stanley Cup champion. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with promo code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved.
What was your favorite course in university?
Oh, so anything to do with psychology for sure. In undergrad,
didn't you?
Yeah. So, like my degree and master's, and intro to psych, like anything to do with psychology was great. And in my master's, it was a group counseling course that we did, and we were actually doing the group counseling, and it was really powerful stuff, and really solidified for me about the counseling side.
I went, if I had more time, I went back to school at 32, and it was when I was 20. I didn't really appreciate it. It was like, because I did when I played in Montreal, and I got drafted and everything, but my parents really, I want to say made me, but yeah, I guess they, like, I was 18, 19, but they were like, you got to keep going to school. It was in my head. So I did. I didn't enjoy it. I'd just go and, I ended up mailing it in, getting, 60s or 70s, hanging out at the Breezeway. But then when I went back and I could really absorb it and enjoy it, the problem was I was too old to really go on and do, I would have definitely been interested in pursuing psychology or law. I know now that if I had but I was like, I got to put bread on the table. I can't just move away and go to law school or anything. But I'll never forget, I learned in Psych 101, or 1001, is it? The story of Phineas Gage. He got like a pipe through his head.
Yeah.
And he didn't die, right? And something that it did to his left and right brain, he wasn't quite the same, but he didn't die. It just flukily went through. And then I learned about left brain versus right brain, and there's some great YouTube videos for anybody. And there's people that might have like a problem in one side, but they can problem solve using the other, and it's like if you're explaining something to them, they'll draw the picture, but they can't write the word. Like if I said car, this is how I forget. It doesn't. It's on YouTube somewhere, and the person can draw it, but they can't put CAR, even though they know and they want to. It's wild, and I was fascinated. I would have kept going. Sports psychology from there. I mean, Brad, I think the biggest topic for any kid leaving, for any, I don't want to say sports psychology, it's too vague, but it's really, 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 really important how you approach whatever game you're playing.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so much to really dissect. Now, when you did psychology, you morphed over and you did a lot of things regarding sports psychology, right?
Yeah, so like even now, like I can't technically, like I'm not a sports psychologist, don't have that certification, but definitely with my counseling certification and my experience in sport and things like that, really helping athletes, helping coaches, helping teams just identify mental skills. But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't recognize is that, mental skills, and within sport, you can use them in everyday life. Like you can use them in school, you can use them just with work, you can use them whatever, because it's a lot of the same type of concepts, like positive self-talk, positive visualization, being able to be in the present moment, breath work, meditation, like a lot of different things like that. And being able to, I think the biggest thing that we, people in general, of course, but definitely within the sports world and the hockey world, is that we need to treat mental health and mental work more proactively than reactively. It's like, I'm feeling really shitty. Now I need to do the work. So now it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so stressed. Now I need to do the work versus, when you're in the off season, you're training your quick feet because it's going to be useful for when the season starts. It's not like the season starts and you say, well, I'm slow. I'm really slow. I need to do some quick feet. The mental work needs to be the same kind of thing. It should be in every athlete's off-season training program. And that's what I love so much about the NHLPA coming in collaboration with Opening Minds. It is with the Mental Health Commission of Canada through their First Line program with Jay Harrison, former NHLer and former St. John's Maple Leaf as well. He's a psychologist now, and they have these programs in. And if I'm not mistaken, Michael Backlund, Blake Wheeler have gone through the program and have done it and have publicly come out talking about it. So it's great to see, to really build that proactive mindset regarding our mental health versus just reacting to it.
So, and you're back here now. What exactly are you doing in that regard back here in Newfoundland now?
Yeah, so I'm doing, I started my own counseling practice in which I'm seeing general public with regards to anxiety, depression. I have a concussion certification that I'm able to help people with the recovery and awareness around concussion, being able to do mental health skills and presentations for not just sports teams, but for schools and for towns and cities. Like I was out in Twillingate Tuesday night to do a mental health, talk about my lived experience, my education on Tuesday night. And then I spoke to the school grades 4 to 12 on Wednesday morning about mental health for Bell Let's Talk Day. So a lot of that side of things, and then being able to work with athletes if they do present with concerns within their sport, but more just obviously keeping it along the mental skills side of things and the emotion, how to be able to manage and cope and how to be able to develop new strategies and being able to just get better in that regard.
Can you tell me, this is, you want to segue into something completely different here. I want to know, I don't know if you have the answer. Someone asked me, why don't referees wear their names on their jerseys? I've always wondered that. I don't get it. And they took it away years ago. I mean, these guys just get dumped on from everywhere. They never get any credit for doing something good. They just get dumped on for doing something bad. The only thing I can think is that fans be all over them and, yelling their name. But I find it so unprofessional and degrading to just take their name right off their jersey and just limit their whole existence on the ice to a number. What do you think of that?
It is weird, actually, that you do mention that, because it's funny, because in the queue, they have the names on the jerseys.
I didn't know that. I used to like seeing them, people even now that used to do in the queue, Dan O'Rourke and Kelly Sutherland for years, just to name two. And I'm like, I'd say these names to people. I'm like, well, Kelly Sutherland, and I'd show, I know him. I'm like, well, why the fuck doesn't he have his name on his jersey? A guy up in the NHL for 20 years, put in all that time. I just don't understand it. If anybody's listening that can do anything about it or knows the answer, shoot me a message on Twitter.
Well, get Senior up at All-Star break to find somebody and ask those hard questions.
True, I should. You know what, Senior? I got to monetize his existence a little bit more. Like, he doesn't have social media or anything. I mean, if he had T-shirts, he'd make something. Senior doesn't, and he doesn't care. Like, he gets his teaching pension, and he needs nothing extravagant, right? Like, if he wants to go to a Growlers game or something, he gets tickets, right? So he doesn't have to worry about much of that. I'm taking Tim up to Toronto now. Biz and the boys take him up once in a while, so he gets to travel. He goes to Chapters every week, buys a few books, goes to Fred's Records, and really, that's him and Mom are pretty easy to please. But
has his night.
Yeah, he has his night. Friday night, as you know, you've been at the basement at Seniors on many a Friday night.
Yeah, it's been quite the show, that's for sure. And then Gail coming down with a couple of sandwiches.
Yeah, that's the way it works too. Yeah. So, and I think he's so content with that it's hard to even twist his arm. He doesn't want to be poor, obviously. I mean, he grew up in need of some money and a lot of other things, but he didn't grow up unhappy or anything. But he's got enough now to make him happy, and he's cool with it.
That's it. Yeah.
I respect it. Who do you think will win the cup?
Oh, great question. I mean, I truly love watching Vancouver right now. Just their team in general. Obviously, Edmonton.
They get good fast.
Yeah, obviously Edmonton is just a powerhouse right now. I am a huge Colorado fan, so I am biasly going to say them with the expectation that Landeskog makes it back. I would love to see Colorado get back there, especially with Nathan McKinnon having the year that he's having. Vancouver, I don't know if it's their time yet. And I mean, Boston, you don't know what's going to happen, especially after their playoffs last year. I mean, Florida is another. They're going to be there again at the end.
They are. It's hard for me to look past Colorado when I see Nathan McKinnon play. It really is.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. It's either, to me, the Oilers are going to beat them, or they're at some point. I mean, I'd love if that could be the Stanley Cup final, but it can't be. But I do all the Oilers games, right, for Jason Gregor. And for the Jason Gregor show in Edmonton, I co-host on Mondays and Thursdays. So I watch all the Oil, and fuck, it's tough to ever bet against them. If it was going to be, go ahead.
And well, just the way they're playing defense now is incredible. And I mean,
yeah, man.
The only thing is still scary is obviously goaltending. Like, if that's going to be there at the end of the day, if they're going to be able to keep this crazy level of play up, is yet to be seen. But in terms of thinking about Canada's best chance at the Cup, I would go with Edmonton over Vancouver.
Yeah, I know, and it's I know.
Like, Toronto's not close.
Well, I know what you mean. I'd love it for our buddy Rope Dog and everything.
Oh yeah.
When people ask me objectively, like, hope is different than, it's hard for me not to think the same thing's going to happen again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they seem like great guys. Like, people. Yeah. When I watch, I have nothing at all against man. In fact, I really think they're pillars of the community. These guys think of the best players on the Toronto Maple Leafs. They don't cause problems on social media. They seem to be really gracious people, nice, like to play there. People say Willie Nylander signed too much. Well, there is that. You could take that opinion. Or for me, I'm like, to want to stay there and take and absorb all those media hits all the time. You fall off for two games, and you're public enemy number one. And if to be able to do that, there's something to that as well. But again, hope. Not that I'm a huge Leafs fan. I'm talking about our buddy Rope Dog. Now I'd love to have a ring, but it's just I just don't see them doing what Edmonton or Colorado can do, as well as a few other teams. But anyway.
Well, the other thing too is that they got to get out of the division with Tampa and Florida.
Yeah,
and Boston.
Not gonna be. Yeah, I know it's not going to be easy. Can they do it? Of course. Anytime you got that fucking Matthews.
He's incredible.
He's like a fucking shark in the waters in the offensive zone.
Oh, it's nuts. Like, he's clearly the best goal scorer in the world.
Wow. Speaking of that, best goal scorer in the world. Do you think Ovi does it or no? He's got 8.
I don't know. Like, just their power play this year is brutal, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say he's slowing down, because knowing him and just his natural ability that he can ramp it up in a heartbeat in the blink of an eye. But I don't know. It's tough. Their team is not,
No.
the aging Warriors.
It happens, right? It happens.
Like,
I wouldn't have bet against him. He only needs 60 something, doesn't he? I don't think he needs a lot of goals.
I think so. Yeah.
But like, to me, this is what I hope doesn't happen, though. What's happening now, I hope doesn't keep happening, because it's sad. Okay, let's say the record wasn't there, right? Let's say that wasn't a thing. No one even knew how many goals anybody got, right? Now, this would be a swung, so you wouldn't keep coming back. Like Joe Sakic, all the great scorers, like this is what happened to them at that point, and they retired. Yeah. If he finishes the year with 10 goals, but if he keeps going, and then if next year he gets even 13, then you're like, okay, this doesn't look. Now you're doing it because, and then it's like, I'm only playing because.
Yeah.
It's like someone recently, was it Marlowe, had some reason to keep playing, or maybe it was
Marlowe had the Iron Man, wasn't it? Was it the Iron Man streak or most games
maybe it was
played?
him, or maybe it was someone else going for it. It could have been
maybe Yandel was going.
Yandel.
Iron Man.
There was something, I don't know what it was, but so please don't quote me on who. It could have been one of them, maybe even baseball, Pujols, trying to get the 500 home run, and you're seeing a guy, like, it looks like he's like crippled,
limping,
walking up to the back. It's just like, come on, man. Like, I get it, but you wouldn't be playing if you weren't chasing this. And do us all a favor. We think you're great. We think you're great, but just hang him up, please.
But even like Joe Thornton, like the last few years, like Eric Stahl, like those guys who are great players in their prime, and then it's tough to see them go from that.
It's tough. It's tough, Brad, because you and I know the difference. But talking to a young 18-year-old now, 19-year-old, to tell them how great Joe Thornton is, they'll laugh at you.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't see that. They saw their leaps take him, and he did nothing 5 years ago or whatever when he was like 40-something. So I'm like, I know. I love seeing these guys play. If they can do what Tom Brady did, wicked. Keep going.
Well, yeah, because you look at those guys that just stayed in incredible shape, like even Brind'Amour. Like Brind'Amour, when he was playing, like even now he looks like he can still play. Like Chelios. Like Chelios was another one.
Chelios went way in, yeah. And Chelios, there's also I'm not against player, obviously. I mean, I just fucking played in the East Coast League. I would have kept playing too if I could. So I'm not against, like, Chelios also, like Craig Rivet his last couple of years went and played in the East Coast League. I'm sure it's because he didn't need that $1,000 a week or whatever, but he liked being a teammate. He's passing it on. He probably wanted to be a coach at some point. Now he's broadcasting. He's elite. It definitely helped him. I can tell you're a very articulate guy. You've become way easier to talk to since you've gone on your hockey journey. So me as well. So I'm not against that. It's just, taking a spot on the Washington Capitals 2 years from now, if Ovi has 6 goals, that starts to be, for me, a bit of a problem as a fan. Now,
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
my money still, I would bet it on him because I don't think this is going to happen. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Like with the status now, even to throw this out there, with the status of the Penguins and with the status of the Capitals, and with Ovi struggling, does Washington maybe look to try to help him get that record by sending him to another team?
I would. I mean, I'm not. I love Gretzky, but I'm not against him getting it. I'd love to see him go somewhere. Imagine if he went to like Pittsburgh and caught fire. I'd love to see a great hockey story. Like you
have no idea. Like he go anywhere and just be like, holy shit. Like even Crosby's having a career year, and Dubas made the big trade for Carlson. I think Crosby has 2 years left on his contract, but like obviously he's not going to blow the team up this year, but. Does it come to a point that even Crosby waves it and says, well, maybe I'll try to win another cup if it's not possible here? I
hope so. I'd love to see that. It would be exciting for hockey. Everything that he's done. I could see how he'd want to stay in Pittsburgh, but
guaranteed.
And I think we're going to see with Sid how legit long a play, like, because it's one thing to keep playing, but he's on pace for 50 again. He did that 14 years ago, right? He's really no different now than he was when he was 22. He's having the same kind of year. So I think because he prepares himself so well, And I saw it firsthand last year down in Pittsburgh, man. He was after the game. He was the last guy out working on taping his stick, everything. So, and he prepares himself, and now so when he drops off, whenever that happens, it has to at some point. I think you'll go, okay, he just prepared himself the best he possibly could. It's genetics to a point, but even the great Sidney Crosby at some point is going to start pulling back. And I think I don't see him playing and getting 40 points and keeping going. I don't.
No.
Right?
But I mean, the question that even like me and maybe two brothers were talking about the other days, say it does go the route that Crosby gets traded. Can you imagine him with either Marchand in Boston or McKinnon in Colorado?
Yeah, either would be intriguing. I think Boston. I as a hockey
Fill
fan,
that first line center.
Because I just think Boston's a great fit for it, and with Marchand, same thing with McKinnon. I guess you're referring to being from Nova Scotia, which is great. But it's also closer to Nova Scotia. I think you'd start to see mad fucking Atlantic Canadian fans down there, like more so than there even are now.
I think,
and I think it's a better fit, by the way.
Yeah. I now don't quote me on it, but I think the drive from Halifax to Boston is like 10 hours.
Oh yeah, it's like us going to like Cornerbrook and change, and we would be out there. You know what I mean? Like think about if like Alex Newhook played out in Cornerbrook. I mean, how many times a year would you go? You'd be there all the time.
Yeah.
Right. When we say that to people on the mainland listening to this, and might go, what a fucking 10 hours. I'm like, yeah, that's why I go when I'm in Toronto. Like I drive down. I say I'm going down to watch a Pittsburgh Penguins game. They're like, what the fuck are you driving all that way? I'm like, 2 hours. What are you talking about? We're used to. Yeah.
It's like it's crazy. It's like even I remember living in New Brunswick. It was like, all right, you got 3.5 hours. You can be in PEI. You can be in Quebec. You can be in Halifax. It's like
we look at that going
between Gander and Grand Falls. And I mean, a night in Gander is always a good time, going to Legends or the Oasis.
It's always a great time.
Or something like that. But
long live the Gander Flyers. A lot of people don't realize that, but Newfoundland's a big island. It's the 14th or 15th biggest island in the world. It takes to get across the whole thing. You'd have to go over 6 or 7 and then up 6 or 7. It's a big island, and those are local plans. So we take road trips. We go to Clarenville, like we look forward to it. And you get to Toronto or any real anyway, even Calgary. People in Calgary think they're a long way from things. I'm like, but I can drive to Vancouver like in a day. Edmonton is right there. I can go over the border to Montana.
Yeah.
There's so many. If I want, I can jump on a plane to Vegas, and it takes me like 45 minutes, and it's only $99. People have no idea about how much we appreciate travel and cheap travel.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's it. And I even find it funny too, like living on the mainland and people not recognizing how big Newfoundland is or how far away it is. Like even talking to people where I was in Quebec, I was like, oh yeah, it takes about 24 hours to get to Cape Breton. And they're like, oh, wow, that's it. Like, that's all it takes. I was like, yeah, but then we got to get either like a 6 or 16-hour ferry. And then depending on your drive from there.
Yeah. But for those we get a 6-hour ferry and then drive like all the way across the island, or a 16-hour ferry and then only have to drive like 3 hours. But either way, it's a long time to fly anywhere. It's always, Toronto's kind of the hub, I guess, or Montreal or Halifax. But, if we want to go anywhere major, you often go through. So that whole thing got to be paid for first. And it's usually $1,000 extra. If I want to go to Vegas, it's $1,000 more than everybody else that wants to go there.
Yeah.
And, oh God, Brad, what was I going to say about that? So I guess we learn it's one thing to learn to appreciate traveling. But when you're a young athlete, right, a lot of people, I think, I know that a lot of other organizations, when I go and see the minor hockey, I might have to give a speech. I just went to Banff and everything. And even Banff, the kids there would consider themselves, we're a little, we often have to drive to Calgary. I'm like, yeah, you're driving to Calgary to watch an NHL game. It's like an hour. Like, we would have to fly for hours and then get tickets and figure out a hotel, come back. So for minor hockey, kids here
for Christmas or a birthday or something like that. It's not just on a whim.
Totally. And it's one thing here that I like about minor hockey now, and especially those side programs, that the kids get to travel a lot. If we didn't win, we didn't get to go to the Hostess Cup. No one would know who Michael Ryder was, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it worked back then. And unless you want to raise a lot of money, and it didn't always happen, you're not going on a trip. But now, if you're elite from Newfoundland, someone will see you at some point.
And the funny part is that for Newfoundlanders, we could be able to maybe shit on it or complain about it, just about how much of a nuisance it could be to travel at times. But we would not for 1 second in our lifetimes ever question or ever not be happy about being a Newfoundlander.
Yeah. Well, you and I, look at us. Just two examples right here. We could have picked many other places that probably would be more lucrative, right? That definitely would be better when it comes to traveling, and we love to travel. But for those listening, that's how much we love living in Newfoundland with our buddies and our family and the experiences. And I think you appreciate everything a little bit more. Everything I said about traveling is true, but it's some fucking good when you gets there, by.
Oh my God, yes. And that's the biggest thing. And I think, actually not I think, I know, my biggest turnaround in my current journey, my current process has been the acceptance piece. Not constantly wondering to myself, oh, I should be here or I could be there or anything like that. It's, listen, I'm here. I accept it. I appreciate it. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the new opportunities. I'm grateful, to jump on, chat with you, to see you yesterday at the rink, grateful for all those little things that, screw being anywhere else, that this is what makes it so fun being home, that just to be able to take advantage of it. And you have so many like of the 18, 19-year-old players that are like, oh, I can't wait to leave. I can't wait to go and all that stuff. And I said, yeah, I fully understand. I've been there. I said, but give yourself 10 years and we'll see when you come back.
Hey, that's well said. And on that note, I'm going to go. I'm taking Penny Lane. We're going to go see, there's some old school movies every once in a while now, if you'll notice. If you ever want to go, man, I go to a lot of movies. But today they're playing IMAX. They're playing the Queen 1981 live in Montreal. So we're going to go check that out.
Wow.
Yeah. Honestly, the concerts are wild. They always got a concert or an old movie. We just went to The Sting not long ago. It was 1972.
Nice.
Flick. Anyway, keep it in mind. Oh, there you go. Nothing gets by you.
Oh, that's a great movie.
I'll see you likely on the ice this week.
Yes, sir.
If not, I'll definitely see you next week when we will have gotten back from the NHL All-Star Weekend with Terry Ryan Sr. That should be interesting.
Yeah, enjoy it. All the best. Make sure don't forget to ask about the referee name bars now.
I certainly will. Okay, it's been great having you, Brad. Thanks again for coming on to Tales with Tier. And last, by the way, do you have anything to promote?
No, not necessarily. Just keep on keeping on. Just enjoy yourself. Give my love to Senior.
Sounds good. Love you, buddy.
You too, buddy.
And thank you. Okay, folks, that was Brad Yetman, longtime friend and teammate and player, coach, and right now back here doing a little bit of everything, really. But Brad is worked, as he said, in psychology and the mental health side of sports. He's counseling, and he's fitting right in. And his two brothers, Nathan and Mark, are also real good friends of mine, and they're back here too. So it's nice to be able to see the boys. Quite a bit. Nathan just got back from his hockey journey. Spent the last 4 or 5 years in PEI before this. Great young hockey player and ball hockey player. And Mark, of course, was my goalie on many of those teams that we talk about with ball hockey, but one of my most cherished hockey memories was 2013. We won the local Newfoundland Senior Hockey Championship called the Herder, and he was our goalie, and we never would have won it without him. So there you go, the Yetman brothers, and that was Brad Yetman. Thanks, Brad, folks. If you're downtown St. John's and you want to have a beer, you want to have a bite to eat, I would definitely check out some of these places. I would go to the Bull and Barrel. I would go to TJ's Pub. I would go to Rob Roy Confusion. I'd definitely go to Greensleeves Pub. I would head to the Martini Bar and the Bull and Barrel. Okay, I usually go down and try to have at least one at those places every Friday night that I go out. If I'm going to get a bite to eat, I usually go to Merchant Tavern, Blue on Water, or Wedgwood Cafe. Wedgwood Cafe also does catering. Peter Wedgwood. Mr. Lube. If you want to go to Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations in St. John's, Newfoundland. One's on Torbay Road, one's on Kenmount Road. Live, laugh, lube. Ryan Power at Power Conditioning. Strength and balance for the body and mind. Check it out. Rope Walk Lane. Power Conditioning. Pitbull Pain Relief. The pain sticks that just don't quit. Go to pitbullpainrelief.com. See what all the fuss is about. And of course, True Hockey. Take what's yours. Folks, I'll be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR, and we'll be at the NHL All-Star Weekend from Thursday to Sunday. I'll be with my dad, with my buddy Jeremy Hart. I will be with Taran Sandwith, Joe Dolo, Ryan McDonald, who plays Michaels on our show, of course, and Cam Fergus. There you go. We're going to have a good crew. If you're in and around Toronto, come down. We'll be around the Air Canada Centre for some events and for some fun all weekend. Folks, thanks for tuning in. See you in just a couple of days. Catch you on the rebound.